Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Well, she came from out of nowhere is where she came from.
One major surprise in the state's one big race, but the top story of this week's elections, voter turnout.
What they are doing is enacting this plan after very deep science and engineering.
Adapting to new realities, a second summit on the state's coastal master plan sheds new light on our future.
And then the spirit comes out of it and it moves you. And when you begin to move, you begin to tell a story.
Louisiana's Chitimacha Powwow and the many Native American nations brought together here to celebrate their light culture. Hi everyone, I'm Andre Morrow. Thanks for joining us. Much more of those stories in a moment. But first, a report card on Louisiana's public schools that does not look good. It's the first report card since standards were toughened this year. The percentage of A-rated schools went down and percentage of F-rated schools went up. School Superintendent John White downplayed the notion that school grades are in free fall. SWI will explore this in depth in the coming weeks. Now, let's look at other stories making headlines across Louisiana. The Coast Guard has begun a formal investigation of the crash that closed the Sunshine Bridge. A news release says the agency will identify unsafe conditions which may have contributed to the accident and ways to prevent it from happening again. The bridge shut down October 12th when a barge-mounted crane owned by Marquette Transportation ran into it. Repairs are expected to make the bridge ready for use again in January. A timeline has been set for construction of the Comite River Diversion Canal in South Louisiana. The Advocate newspaper reported engineers with the project say it will be completed by the summer of 2021. The project has been in talks since the floods of 1983. Computer issues that caused big problems at the State Office of Motor Vehicles have been fixed. An outage Wednesday impacted OMV offices statewide and was discovered just hours before offices opened. The glitch made it impossible to get or renew driver's licenses. First Bank Shares of Hattiesburg, Mississippi says it's buying FPB Financial Corp in Hammond for $86 million in stock. FPB owns Florida Parishes Bank with $383 million in assets and 7 offices in the Hammond and New Orleans areas. The deal is pending approval. A Japanese company has broken ground on a $70 million vegetable oil plant in Metro New Orleans. Fuji Vegetable Oil, Inc. plans to process palm, sunflower, and coconut oil. The plant expects to open its doors in mid-2020. Nationally, the big stories of this week's elections: the Democrats seize control of the House while Republicans strengthen their grip on the Senate. In Louisiana, though, it seems the enthusiasm nationwide that energized voters to get out to the polls did so even in our state, even though we had no type of race that had people sweating it out like in other states. To break down what happened here, Greg Hilburn, Monroe News Star and USA Network, and Barry Irwin, Counsel for a Better Louisiana. A lot to talk about. Let's talk first about Secretary of State and the surprise there. Not that Carl Ardoin finished first in what will be a runoff, but second place, Gwen Collins Greenup, a Democrat. Where did she come from?
Well, she came from out of nowhere is where she came from and ended up with 20% of the vote. She was not the endorsed candidate by the Louisiana Democratic Party. She's an attorney, an African-American attorney from Clinton who had no money, spent less than $1,500 compared to $250,000 from Kyle Ardoin, almost over $400,000 from Julie Stokes, and here she is made the runoff.
And it's pretty much a dead heat so far going into the runoff, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting race. I mean, one, she came out of nowhere, and if you go down the ballot, as Greg mentioned, Julie Stokes spent a boatload of money on this campaign, and she just barely beat out a guy named Thomas Kennedy, who didn't have a campaign either, who got 9%. She got 11%. This just kind of, I think, really surprised people across the board.
Yeah, you know, when you look at people who went to all of the rallies and who spoke at all the public events, she was not one of them.
I know.
I saw her at qualifying when she came to qualify, and then she was at the Manship Forum.
She was there, yes.
And that was it. But she managed somehow to get on some of the traditional, powerful African American ballots around New Orleans and elsewhere, and here she is now. It's probably going to be a different story in the runoff.
Forecast the runoff.
Yeah.
Then forecast that.
Well, you could probably go back and look at the treasurer's race last year and see somewhat the same thing, where you had John Schroeder, who gets in a runoff with an African-American Democrat, again, somebody who really nobody knew their name, and the Republican wins kind of hands down, and that's probably what will end up happening with this.
Come December 8th.
Come December 8th, we'll see if she can raise some money, and she's elevated her profile. Maybe she can run again.
Okay, let's talk about the 6 House members that easily retained their seats. That was expected. Louisiana did not have the drama as other states did, and this was expected. What does it mean, though, going forward?
Well, there was no blue wave here. The great Louisiana levee system blocked any kind of blue wave that would be coming in here. And so it means, for one thing, Louisiana will have lost a lot of clout in the House of Representatives. 5 of our 6 representatives are Republican. 1 was the majority whip, Steve Scalise. So that really has lost some influence in the House, but there is a bright spot, though.
Cedric Richmond, who is from New Orleans, easily won re-election with like 80% of the vote. He's definitely in line for some kind of a leadership position with the Democrats taking control, and he's already in a pretty good position right now, so he is in line for that. So we balance one or the other, but certainly Steve Scalise is still going to be a player, I think.
People are saying that now there's a force of checks and balances for the president. So if that happens, it could be just a stalemate in everything that you see going forward. How does that impact Louisiana?
That's a good question. I mean, I think when you have the 2 houses in different hands and a Republican in the presidency, it's a big question about what happens. I mean, I think a lot of it really is more of a national political game than it is something dealing with the state. You're certainly going to have, I think, a lot of the Democrats bringing up investigations. You're going to have a lot of hearings. It's going to go back to days sounding like Watergate almost, probably. Right. We're going to be at that kind of a level. I don't know at the state level per se that it does. I mean, obviously one of the things that affects us is the tariff issue and those types of things. But I don't know that that's a House and Senate issue as much as it is with the president.
There was a lot of talk about the amendments to the Constitution. Firstly, the unanimous jury vote. That passed.
That was a national story.
It really was.
We were one of only 2 states where you could be convicted with 10 out of 12 jurors if you were charged with a felony. The other's Oregon. And it goes back to the Jim Crow era.
Absolutely.
And certainly was born in racist tones, but it was swept out really by a huge majority.
Yeah, it was. And when you saw what happened in the legislature, which is just a big surprise that it even got to the ballot, if you really want to get down to it, there was an organized effort to get it out there, and it did very well. Thing that's interesting to me a little bit on those amendments, we didn't have a ton of them. There were 6 of them, but you don't always see that voters pass all of those amendments. They usually do a little picking and choosing on some of those. This time, all of them passed by fairly healthy margins.
What about some of the others that passed that stood out to you that are important? I mean, let's take one, for example, the banning of state roads and bridges funds to be used for traffic control by state police. What does that mean exactly?
Well, Cable does a great job, Butch Berry is the director, does a great job of breaking down these amendments, so I'm going to cede that to him.
Well, I would just say that it's been a big issue in the legislature trying to get money into roads. We had an attempt last year to try and pass a gasoline tax, but one of the arguments has always been we want to make sure those dollars are going straight to the roads. They're not really going to administrative things or to extraneous things. So we've seen the legislature take steps over the last few years to try and do this. This was kind of the last step, I think, of that. Just, it wasn't anything about state police. It was just trying to make sure that those dollars were not being used to balance the budget by giving those dollars to state police, but saying, hey, we want as much of the revenue as we have available going to roads. And I think this was kind of the final piece on that.
And did you notice on Election Day, commercials began airing about a bridge pack? Whereas this came out of nowhere again. This spot was a very lengthy, well thought out spot about they positioned the legislature to allocate funding for another capital area bridge, and what will happen going forward with that.
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of talk about infrastructure in the months ahead. I do believe there's a group that's coming together right now to try and push a proposal that they're still, I think, trying to hammer out for a gasoline tax and kind of a continuation to put a significant amount of money into infrastructure. Now, whether that passes during an election year, I'm not sure, but there's certainly a lot of people teeing that issue up.
Well, and the closure of the Sunshine Bridge has played into this.
Definitely.
Because that's been a big deal. You realize how important that is.
Turned some 20-minute commutes into 2 hour, hour and a half
absolutely,
commutes.
right.
It's terrible. It's really
people trying to vote who live on the East Bank going to the West Bank. There was trouble there, and then they were given provisional ballots to vote, but they couldn't vote on everything.
I have to say that there will. I'm sure there'll be a coalition for some kind of gas tax, but I don't think there's any danger of that passing in an election year.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about the fantasy sports betting, which I find fascinating. And how did that play out, and what does that mean going forward?
Well, Barry is known for the amount of money he invests in fantasy sports betting. I don't know that much about it, but it did.
I don't either.
It did pass about 47 out of 62 parishes.
I think 47, out of 64 parishes. And I think the thing that's interesting to me is, we had the whole issue about regular sports betting, like at the casino thing last year. It didn't go anywhere. We have this.
But Mississippi did, of course, and everyone noticed that.
And we're talking a lot about that.
Now we're talking about it again.
This is totally different from that, but when you see this many folks, and certainly in all the urban areas, it passed actually fairly handily, it looks like. Maybe that has an impact on that sports betting bill that comes up again in the legislature next year.
Well, there was talk that to look at how this goes, because how this goes would be an indicator of how the regular sports betting would go should Louisiana introduce that into our casinos. And then we compete with Mississippi, which a lot of people have gone over there and spent their dollars there.
I think if that's a canary, then you think then it is it does pretend that it has a chance.
Yeah.
Sports betting has a chance, especially with Mississippi just,
And they're advertising all that they are in our state to come to our casinos.
Any other one thing that jumps out as we look back for the last time of the election and then look forward to the runoff that we're going to be interested in?
I just think the turnout was amazing for a midterm election. We had a big governor's race 2015. We had 40% in that.
Barry Irwin, Greg Hilburn, thanks so much.
Thank
always
you,
good to see you.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
We appreciate your
Thanks.
time, always. LSU this week hosted the second summit on Louisiana's Coastal Master Plan. We found a full house listening to scientists, coastal restoration experts, city leaders, and also the governor.
The forecasts and the projections can be scary, but if there is a state in the United States of America that can learn to adapt in order to preserve a way of life that is close to our hearts, it is Louisiana.
Governor John Bel Edwards says as our state implements the Coastal Master Plan, we will demonstrate the ability to disrupt and reverse coastal land loss, thus becoming a national and world leader in water management. He says it's why others will come here for answers. But the clock is ticking, and there's urgency to make projects happen.
We always say it's not people moving toward the coast in Louisiana, it's the coast moving toward people.
Robert Twilley, the director of Louisiana's Sea Grant, describes Houma in Terrebonne Parish and the march of the Gulf closer and closer to that city.
We like to say football field every hour, of wetland loss. This is a shoreline moving 2 football fields in linear dimension per year. It's a striking, that's the migration of the Gulf of Mexico toward Houma.
Coastal expert Denise Reed worked closely in developing the 2012 and 2017 Coastal Master Plans and says we now have the ability to connect conceptual models and ideas with equations.
Technology has really enabled us to convert the kind of thinking processes that we've had for a long time, actually convert them into numbers and outputs that CPRA can use to say, this project performs like that, and that project performs like that.
During the event, I talked with Val Marmillion, summit moderator and managing director of America's Wetland Foundation.
These conferences are benchmark summits to show how we're doing along the way and sort of to test if we're making progress. A year and a half ago, we met here in the same location in Baton Rouge, and a new master plan, the 2017 master plan, was just launched. And it listed and showed all the projects along the coast that would be started. The good news is that there are about 67 of them that are starting to be in action, and people are saying, well, where are they? Well, they've been beach nourishment, there have been barrier island restorations, but now they're focusing on several large diversions and some locks and dams that will create a growth potential in some of our land-lost areas.
These are some of the huge projects.
Talking about big, coming to Louisiana in the next 10 years is $11 billion from some of the fines and penalties from the Deepwater Horizon. And they're going to build these projects, which means a great opportunity for citizens to get involved through their occupations, for kids to get involved in learning, to fill these occupations that this money is going to go to support.
One of the panel groups is asking the question, what are we buying and when are we buying it? That's an interesting question to pose.
Exactly. Well, people have been hearing about this money, right? And so the Coastal Restoration Protection Authority has been doing really a masterful job at putting the plans together. But people are impatient. You know, it's almost a, what have you done for me today? But what they are doing is enacting this plan after very deep science and engineering to make sure that these projects will be successful. Heretofore, they've been very small projects around sort of postage stamp projects, but now there's a cohesive plan, really the only plan like this in the world, outside of maybe the Netherlands, to turn our coastal areas into the values that can support and sustain an economy, our cultures, our communities, and a way of life. We believe that people don't have to leave. There's been a lot of talk, and certainly a lot outside the state and in Congress, about, well, they just have to give up that land and leave. Well, you can't just give up the land and leave. We had a session here that talked about the future of the energy sector. They're looking out 100 years. They're going to stay around. Nicholls State University, they're staying around. Tulane and LSU, they have substantial investments. And so the people need to adapt. The difference in maybe the previous seminar and this one, we were talking about resiliency. And resiliency is how you bounce back after a disaster. And our disaster has been ongoing for 50 years, or since 1927, with the levees being built. But adaptation is how you live with the new norm. And the new normal for Louisiana is a different landscape, but there are going to be many opportunities for people to actually be on the front lines of how you coastally engineer these landscapes to be successful living in them.
And living with it and moving forward with it and being proactive instead of always being on the recovery side.
Well, we've had a couple of speakers say we have to wait for our next hurricane to get any action. Well, that is not a good way of planning. It doesn't get better waiting for anything. We coined the phrase, a football field of land lost every hour. And since then, it's been used around the world because coastal areas in all parts of not only our country, but the world are seeing sea level rise, climate change, and all of that, whether you like to call it that or not, is leading to some very challenging coastal situations. We're the canary in the coal mine here in Louisiana. We start to solve the problem, that's very exportable to the rest of the world.
Val, thank you so much. It's always great to see you and hear your insight. The 2018 football season is 3/4 of the way through now. The many targeting calls against players we've seen continue to get lots of attention as the move to make the game relatively safer moves forward. Dr. Julian Bailes, LSU graduate and co-founder of the Brain Injury Research Institute, is a lead authority on the prevention of traumatic brain injuries and trying to prevent CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. CTE is the progressive degenerative disease found in people, like pro football players, likely caused by repeated head traumas and concussions. Bailes was also a 2017 LPB Louisiana legend and recently talked with LPB President Beth Courtney about football helmets. How much do they really protect athletes from jarring collisions?
The helmet does not prevent concussion because the human brain floats inside the skull. So when the head suddenly stops, the brain has the ability to move or translate or stretch or damage fibers. So the helmet is not the answer. That's why when you don't have complete protection and complete knowledge, you have to default to avoiding exposure.
This excerpt is from LPB's Louisiana Legends series. As part of our First of the Year lineup in 2019, it will air Friday, January 4th at 8 p.m. here on LPB. The 5th annual Chitimacha Powwow held a few weeks ago was a celebration of the dance and music of more than 20 tribal nations from around the country, and LPB was there to capture the day-long event. It happened in St. Mary Parish in the community of Sharonton.
Within the depths of old-growth cypress swamps, miles of sugarcane fields, and bayous and rivers of the Atchafalaya Basin lays a 1,000-acre parcel of land. It is the home of the sovereign nation of the Chitimacha tribe of Louisiana. Less than half of the tribe's membership lives on their reservation, but on this one weekend, the Chitimacha, along with other tribal nations, gathered in large numbers to celebrate the age-old tradition of powwow.
The word powwow is actually from the Algonquin language, and it meant a gathering of medicine people. And so I guess the colonists sort of extrapolated that it was just a gathering of tribal people. And so the term became being used, although it was more ceremonial at that point.
But as the reservation system began, government regulations suppressed the gatherings, and Native Americans were thought to be a vanishing race. In the late 1800s, Colonel William Frederick Cody, Buffalo Bill, influenced the U.S. government to allow him to secure Native Americans for his Wild West show. Between 1887 and World War I, over 1,000 Native Americans went Wild Westing and were able to preserve dances and ceremonies that otherwise may have been lost. As that powwow culture became popular throughout this country and Europe, Native Americans educated the general public about their history and culture. Over the years, powwow soon became a source of tribal enterprise, and today is a place where families of many nations gather to sing, dance, and celebrate and preserve their shared cultures. It all begins with the grand entry, as the eagle staff is carried into the circle, followed by the American, state, and tribal flags, all carried by veteran warriors.
So it's a lot of power in there. It's all those eagle feathers that you see, of course, it's from the eagle. It flies the highest to us, and it always brings us a lot of good feelings and blessings to the people for those warriors a long time ago.
Once everyone is in the arena, a prayer is offered and a song is presented to honor the flags and veterans. And then the powwow dancing begins.
Everybody has their own dance styles. You know, you have certain dances, but you have your own dance styles. Have fun. Have fun, enjoy yourself. That's the main thing.
Each dancer is telling their story. They might be telling the story of a hunt. They may be tracking something. They listen to that drum. We refer to the drum as the heartbeat of American Indians. It's our heartbeat. So when that drum starts, that's our heart going. And then the spirit comes out of it, and it moves you. And when you begin to move, you begin to tell a story. And the most important thing of all is when you put your regalia on, you feel like who you are. You feel like the person that you represent, your tribe.
I am considered a Southern cloth dancer. You'll see a variety of different styles of cloth. However, mine is considered a tea dress, and it's covered with imitation elk teeth. Everything on what I'm wearing represents my tribe.
For Pat and Tanya Moore, powwow is a weekend way of life for them, a chance to escape the demands of their work week and keep their cultural traditions alive.
All the hustle and bustle throughout the week, all that goes away the minute we get dressed and we go out there and dance with our brothers and sisters. These relationships are lifelong, they're generational.
And for some, like Adam Norwell, it's a full-time way of life.
It's who I am. I mean, it's a part of my culture. It's how I identify myself. Me and my family, we're full-time powwow dancers. My kids are homeschooled, and this is what we do. We travel the country and perform and compete at powwows.
Competition dancing is an important part of the powwow, and a good dancer can make a good living traveling from one event to another.
It's a lot like a rodeo circuit. You know, when people rodeo, they go from one event to the next event to the next event in a competition series.
Yes, it does feel like family, but at the end of the day, it's still a competition. It's a lot of little things that we look at from, you know, the amount of prize money, how are we doing compared to other tribes, just what gifts are we going to give them, you know, how do we honor the people that are coming to be with us.
To me, it's a way of life. I grew up doing it. Ever since I could walk, I was dancing. That's the way we bring our children in. As soon as they begin to walk, we dress them, we get them out in the arena, and we turn them loose and we let them dance. Throughout the years, they find out who they are and what they represent.
It's like a healing that helps us stay closer to our culture because we're all spread out now. We're all spread out. And people that go, the younger people, they're learning so they can carry on when we're gone.
So join us Tuesday, November 13th at 8 p.m. for the third and fourth programs of the PBS series Native America as we see the creation of some of the ancient world's largest and most splendid cities. And everyone, that's our show for this week. For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Morrow. Thanks for watching. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.